You're welcome. I do want to have, this is the post-credits time, like the Marvel movies and all that, almost as a tack on or an extra consideration this evening. What do you do with James 2? Let's say James 2:24, justified by works, and Romans 3:28. You can look it up, or you can trust me that one says you're justified by works. We just read and looked at that one tonight. That's James 2:24. Romans 3:28 says that we're justified by faith, not by what? Works. How do you handle that? Through the ages, some have looked at that and they've said, well, some have said it's an outright contradiction. Others aren't too comfortable with that, and so they say, well, maybe they're talking about two different kinds of salvation, and there's a few different avenues of thought that have developed over the years. Here's one consideration. Are Paul and James referring to the same kind of works? I guess this is in two questions, okay? Question one, are they talking about the same kind of works in context? Question two, are they even thinking about the same kind of faith? And some of you might remember, so it's been almost 2 years. It was in July of 23 that we had a whole sermon on a Sunday evening on the idea of faith. And part of what we brought up is kind of like some other words like baptism and even church, that in English they have taken on so many different meanings and have been kind of twisted and thrown around that we asked, is faith even the best English word to use anymore? Or should words like faithfulness or loyalty or allegiance serve better for the real, authentic faith that saves? James is emphasizing a different kind of faith that is, well, like demons, that's empty, as we noted. But here's a consideration, a case in point, let's say. How many of you have ever heard of Martin Luther? He's kind of the guy that made the idea of salvation by faith alone popular, based on Romans 3:28 and similar verses. Now, some have come along since then, and they agree with Martin Luther, but they say faith alone saves, but faith that saves is never alone. And they're kind of getting closer to what James is pointing out. But when it came to the letter of James, Martin Luther called it the strawy epistle. He did include it in his German Bible, but he regulated it to the end of the list of the canon. But I'll leave you with this. Here's something a writer in his words on James said. Translating belief into action. Wait, I got the wrong quote. I'm sorry. That's another quote on faith. Here it is. It is a living, busy, active, mighty thing, this faith. It is impossible for it not to be doing good things incessantly. It does not ask whether good things are to be done, but before the question is asked, it has already done this and is constantly doing them. Whoever does not do such works, however, is an unbeliever. He gropes and looks around for faith and good works, but he knows neither what faith is nor what good works are. Yet he talks and talks with many words about faith and good works. Martin Luther, in his document Letters of James. Something else to think about in the words of the man who made it popular to say salvation by faith alone, had those bold words to say about faith and works. Thank you.